Going live. Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is your host, Brother T. Glad to be back with you guys after a week off last Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great weekend and good travels or wherever you were with family and friends. Hope that was great for you. Obviously tonight we're going to be talking about A Course in Miracles. That's the subject of our conversation. We have a few people that are in the studio with us tonight, so excited to kind of get the ball rolling and get back on the air with you. And so let's just kind of get started. We're going to be talking about, again, this book, A Course in Miracles. This is the Your Text version, if you will, and we'll see what happens tonight. So we've got a few things that we can get into. So I'd like to open it up with the people that are in the studio with us tonight. I just want to say hello and thank you again for joining us wherever you may be tonight. But I want to give you guys a chance to ask any questions. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks. Have you been studying anything at all? Any workbook lessons or texts, anything at all that's coming up? And if you'll grab this guy here, then maybe they can hear you at home.
So looking at lessons 10, 11, 12, and 13,
Is that all?
and lesson 14, they all kind of pertain to the same thing.
Yes.
Talking about meaningless thoughts.
Yes.
So when they're talking about a meaningless thought, so when you look at something that was handed down from generations, but it has a story behind it,
Yes.
and you are to say it has no meaning.
Yes.
Is that where some people can, get upset when they say, I am upset because I see a meaningless world, meaning a meaningless object? Is that what this is saying?
Read a little bit of that first paragraph of that lesson. I am upset.
The importance of this idea lies in the fact that it contains a correction for a major perpetual distortion. You think what upsets you is frightening world or a sad world or a violent world or an insane world. All these attributes are given it by you. The world is meaningless in itself.
Why would we think that the world is meaningless? I mean, that's a really radical, far out, crazy idea.
Yes.
That the world is meaningless. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And do we have any proof that that's true?
Other than what we read.
Other than what we read?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that we're sitting at a table and we're at a restaurant or whatever, and a waitress comes over and is going to pour some water and drops the pitcher on the table. And everybody gets splashed. No one more than any other one, really. And one person is like, oh, that's, feeling compassion and empathy for the waitress. And another person on the other end of the extreme is just angry as hell, just irate. How dare you, and attack this person, right? Which one of them is right?
I don't know.
Which one of them is giving that event meaning?
The person that's angry is giving it meaning. The person that is compassionate is
Also giving
I
it
guess
meaning
they are
because
giving it meaning. Yeah.
she's looking at it saying, oh, this is bad for this person,
Yeah.
right? The other person saying, this is bad for me. I've been attacked. I have been disrespected. I have been whatever, right? Which one's right?
Well, I guess neither one's
Neither
right.
one.
But
the
it's one
person that's
event, right?
Compassionate is.
It's an event, but everyone that's at the table is giving it all the meaning that it has. And the meanings could be anything you can imagine as a reaction to an event. But the event itself, does it have meaning?
No.
No.
No. The only meaning that it could possibly have would be the meaning that you give it,
Right.
right? You're giving everything all the meaning that it has, which means that all events, and we talked about it, right? All events are
Neutral.
neutral. A meaningless world is really saying all events, the world is just a series of events simultaneously, and it looks like linearly in time, right? But it's all neutral. It has no meaning except what we give it as the human self that's having, quote unquote, an experience. And so if everything is neutral, all events are neutral, and another way of saying that is dreams have no effect. In other words, events have no effect, except when we give it meaning. And when we give it meaning, we're laying a vibration over it. We're giving it some kind of a energy. Our consciousness, our attention, our awareness, our energy is thought. And we're overlaying everything with our thought, a vibration, right? And then that vibration goes out and ripples back, right? So we could say the effect is just the echo, if you'll allow me to say it that way, the echo of thought, right? And so it just shows up again here and maybe here, whatever the event is. But it's a similar energy that keeps resonating or repeating itself because it's in this vibrational field, and it just keeps, oh, there's it, there it is, there it is, there it is. And so we keep seeing it because we're the ones that are putting it in motion. But we're putting it in motion, overlaying it over something that absolutely has no meaning. A meaningless world. So, if the present moment is meaningless, what would that say about the past?
Same.
The same exact thing. It was literally meaningless because we gave it, and still do. Are you concerned about who the President of the United States is? Good or bad? Yes or no? It doesn't really matter which side of the aisle you're on or if you're right down the middle. It doesn't really matter. If you're giving it any thought at all, you're placing a meaning over something that is absolutely neutral, has no meaning whatsoever. Yes, sir.
Well, I started to say this is at least very important to me because I've heard that like 60 to 70% of visits to doctor's offices are caused by stress.
Yes.
That people are getting stressed out by current events. In fact, over the past few days, and I won't name exactly who or what they're stressed at, but I've encountered a number of random people that I have to say could benefit by this course, or at least cool their head off in some fashion.
I would agree. I would totally agree. So let's look at another example. Get my magic eraser. Another example, let's say that you are an investor, okay? And you're investing, in the stock market. All right? Now, if you have any experience in the stock market, or I'm sure even if you haven't, you've probably heard that people say they can make money when the stock market goes up, and they can make money when the stock market goes down, right? Now, you may not know how to do that. It doesn't matter. But the point is, if the market goes up and it's trending like this, and then it goes down, each one of these is an event, right? Which one of these is good?
To the investor, I guess the up events,
This may be the very best one of all.
maybe, right.
Because this person could be saying, oh, I'm so happy the market went down because I was betting against it. But if you were the guy that was thinking, or the lady that was thinking that was just keep going to go up, and you got in right here, you are not going to be very happy. But it's the same event. And here's the interesting thing about, and I like using the market as an example, because people actually believe that they can predict which way the market's going to go, and they get invested, they get attached to it, they have an expectation of the outcome of an event, right? Well, number one, you have no idea. No one has any idea. I didn't bring my magic quarter tonight, but if I had a quarter, I could flip it, and we could all call heads or tails, right? And if we flip it a few thousand, maybe 10 or 20,000 times, it'll pretty much be 50-50. But for the first 6 or 8 times, it might be 8 heads and 2 tails. It's because it's completely random. There's no way, can we agree, that we couldn't really predict the toss unless we did it enough times. Then we would know that it, because it's completely random, that over a course of time, then it would approach 50-50. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The same thing in the stock market. People actually believe they can predict the stock market based on trends or fundamentals or whatever the case may be, and they get attached to their expectation. I think it's going to be heads, it's going to be heads, and they put big money on heads, or the roulette wheel, it's going to be red, and it's black. Uh-oh. Sorry, honey, I just lost last month's rent and this month's rent because I thought I could double down and get it back. Good or bad? It's just crazy is what it is, because we are in a completely random world of events. There is no way to know or predict what's going to happen. I was in a course gathering with a group of people last week, and I actually said, because we were talking about, what's going to happen, blah, 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 and people had expectations, this week or next week or whatever. And I said, I don't know that I'll be here tomorrow. We don't know. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Whether the market's going to go up or down, whether you're going to have a good day or a bad day based on your expectations of what you think a good or bad day is, and then you can get attached to that. You can have unrealistic expectation if you think you have any idea what's going to happen tomorrow, or if you're unhappy about what happened today. Because all events are neutral. We live in a completely random universe, okay? We could say it's ordered by, that there is a divine plan. We can make that argument, but we could also say that we don't have a clue what that is, and we don't need to know that. It's beyond our ability to have any concept of that. So if we really can get back to this idea that thoughts are things, and I'll again use the market as an example. If enough people believe that the market's going to keep going up and they buy into that idea, guess what's going to happen to the market? It's going to go up. And the only reason it's going to go down is if enough people believe, well, it's not going to go up, and so they sell their investment or bet against it, and the market is always just measuring the sentiment of us. It's measuring our sentiment. And I think it's one of the greatest ways for us to really take a look at our own thinking, because people get crazy mad when they lose money. We're very, very attached to our money. Have you noticed? Very much. And the market is the perfect mirror showing us ourselves. We can see how we get attached to things. And so if you were going to trade in the market, one of the first things you need to do is study A Course in Miracles and become unattached to the outcome of the market. And then you could probably be a pretty good investor. But when people get invested or get unrealistic expectations of what they're capable of doing, that they can predict the future, oh, hell no, you cannot. I mean, the closer to the present moment, the closer we can make some predictions, like I think I could take another breath here in the next moment or two. I can pretty well say that, but I don't know that I will be able to do that tomorrow or next week. The odds get bigger and bigger against me if I say, well, what about 5 years from now? What about 50 years from now? Well, it depends on how old you are. You know, we have this belief system, and our belief system is reflecting back our experience. A meaningless world. My meaningless thoughts are giving everything all the meaning that it has. So let's go back to number 10 and just read the title of this lesson in the book.
My thoughts do not mean anything.
Oh, shit. Ooh, yes, I said shit. So if my thoughts don't mean anything, what have I been investing in? Going to school, you know, all the education I've had, all the work I've done, the skills that, you know, and I have some idea. The ego says, if I can learn enough from the past, I can, guess what? Predict the future. Well, just flip a coin and good luck with that, because you cannot. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, much less next week, next month, next year, next millennium. Yeah, you'll still be here, unless you study the Course in Miracles and become enlightened or whatever. Right? And you still may be here, you know, as an enlightened master. Right? Christ consciousness in form. In fact, that's what this book is leading you to. Being Christ consciousness, the representation of your higher self in form. Walking around in a body in form. Right? In form and field as an awakened master. Lofty idea? Yes. Is it worth investing your commitment to? Absolutely. Right? But do you know what's going to happen when that happens? No, you have no idea what that's going to be like, right? But it's the mind of knowing that takes you and transcends the world of form. So it's really like being, 1 foot in one dimension and 1 foot in another dimension. When you're enlightened in form, you're really two-dimensional, if we could call it that. Well, we could say multidimensional or quantum dimensional, but you are, part of your mind is the mind of all knowing, and part of your mind also is the mind of form, if you will, the human self. So, interesting. Now, the next one is, number 11 is what? We're reading the workbook lessons now, the titles at least of the workbook lessons.
My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world.
My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And what does that mean? Thoughts are things. So the thoughts go out, create a ripple, and it rebounds or echoes right back, and it shows me my thoughts. It shows me the energy or the vibration of my thinking. Was it my thought of being victimized? I'm not very happy. I was a victim of the market. No. You're the one that decided to get in the market, so that's not possible. You can't be a victim of the market. You can only be a victim of your own craziness. Yes. Or I was a hero, superhero. I've got it figured out. I won today. Well, be careful, because tomorrow, it may not work out for you. Okay, so again, my meaningless thoughts are echoing back a meaningless world, right? All events are neutral, and dreams have no effect. So whatever is echoing back, it's really just showing me myself. It's showing me the level of my consciousness. So if you're always in the middle of a shitstorm, you need to think about what you're thinking about, right? Because it's echoing back. If you think you're a victim, it's echoing back that you could be a victim. And it certainly feels like it if I'm at that level of consciousness, because I keep reinforcing it. Thoughts are things. I keep sending it back out. The wave comes back, and I add more energy to it and send it back out again. Add more energy to it and send it back out again. But if I'm an enlightened master, I'm operating at this very high frequency, way up there, so to speak, and all I'm experiencing is bliss and joy. And guess what the world is showing me? Bliss and joy. Now, as soon as I give it meaning, I go right back down, right? But if I'm just being aware of the world, I'm not energizing it with thoughts. I'm just being aware of it. And life gets really, we could say life gets a lot better. It absolutely does. Even the transition of life. We were talking a little bit before we started our episode tonight, but there have been people around me in my life lately who have quite unexpectedly had to deal with transition, and the people around them, and some of them were students of this course, and some of them still are. Okay, but the point is, we're all dealing with something that's going on, and it appears this echo. We're in an echo chamber, and it appears that it keeps coming back and reverberating back to us. But the point is that if you understand that it's just a dream, that you're not the body, you never were the physical self, you can be okay with that self, and you can be enlightened in form. But you also, as many people who have achieved enlightenment, we've been told, just simply said, well, the body doesn't mean anything, and so I'd rather just be one with all that is. I'd rather be totally beyond form, because form has its own vibrational field. You know, there is only a certain limit, if I can say it that way, or a finite limit to the vibration that the body can hold. And then it begins to disperse at a higher vibrations into light. We've heard and seen examples of that historically, stories about that, right? So the next one is, which would be number 12.
I am upset because I see a meaningless world.
So I'm upset when I see I'm seeing a meaningless world, but what he's really saying is I'm upset because I'm giving meaning. I'm thinking about, I'm attached to an outcome in a meaningless world. If I can look at this as just a game, okay, it's just a game, then regardless of how it plays out, I have no attachment to it, which would be the way an enlightened master might be. I remember hearing a story about this master, if you will, I think it was a Buddhist master, who was doing a workshop or a gathering, and there's 30, 40 people in the room, and this lady comes in and she has an infant with her, and this infant just really starts bawling, crying, and it just keeps getting louder and louder. Well, pretty soon, the whole room is becoming upset, except for the master, because he knew it didn't mean anything. And people are saying, this is disturbing my peace. But that's a choice. That's a thought. That's a decision. That's an attachment. That's crazy. Because it's neutral. Dreams have no effect. All events are neutral. My thoughts, what I'm getting angry at, I'm angry at a meaningless world. And the reason I'm angry is because I'm saying it's not meaningless. I'm giving it some value, right? Good or bad. I'm in judgment. And as soon as I'm in judgment, I'm going way down in vibration. I'm out of alignment consciously with truth, with the truth of who I am, what I am, as I am. How's that? Fun stuff. The next one says,
A meaningless world engenders fear.
A meaningless world engenders fear because he's saying we're doing the same thing over and over and over. We're giving it based on our value. Oh no, I'm afraid I just lost, my life's, worth, my wealth, whatever. If I'm investing in the market or whatever, right? Or I'm invested in a job and the company goes, you notice that some companies just fail? And you may have had a job, Enron comes to mind. People were out of work. They made their life investments in the stock of the company, and it's overnight it's worthless, right? So I'm very upset because I'm afraid. Now, what am I afraid of? If I'm in fear at all, so I just want to look at it from this perspective. If I'm only being present and there's not a bear chasing me or a mountain lion, right? Or someone with a gun in my face, I can't be fearful. I'm only fearful. I mean, if you think about your present situation right now, if you're just being present, if you're watching this right now, whenever it is, it's now, and if you're wherever you are and you're probably fairly comfortable with yourself, if you're watching this on YouTube, right? The boss might be in the other room, whatever, but the point is, you're probably okay. And no matter what's going on in your life, you're probably not experiencing fear right now, unless you're thinking about the future. And if you're thinking about the future, you're adding value to it based on, guess what? The past, right? Because in this present moment, you are perfectly okay. You know, I mean, most likely, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you're probably perfectly okay. Now, you may be thinking about tomorrow, and you might be thinking about what your life's going to look like tomorrow, and you're basing it on your past. But for most of us, if we would just go back 10 years ago and would say, this is where I'm going to be today, I would have thought, boy, if I could do that, that'd be great. Who are you today? Go back 10 years, or go back 20 years, or go back 30 years ago, whatever that person was, whoever that person, whatever their imagination was that you could be what you are today, if you've got time to be focused on your spiritual journey, if you've got time to sit around and watch YouTube, you're probably doing okay. And 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, if you could have looked forward and really have seen what your life was going to be like and where you would be right now, you would have went, oh man, I'm that's successful, right? But based on your experience, whatever it is right now, today, and what you're thinking about the future to be, you might think, well, I'm not as successful as I would like to be. What are you thinking about? The future. It doesn't exist. It's all, anything you're thinking about the future is literally a guess. Gambling, you're flipping the coin, and then you're expecting some outcome in your favor based on what you think that you can literally predict the future based on what you do or don't do. To some degree, that's true for the next 15 or 20 seconds. But beyond that, who knows? Because it's all made up, right? So if I'm in fear, I'm focused on thinking. You see, the common problem with all of this and all of these lessons, this meaningless world, is one thing. It's the only problem you've ever had. Is your stinking thinking. That's right. It's your stinking thinking. Okay, next one.
On the same lesson, at the bottom part of that, after you say, I am looking at a meaningless world, they want you to close your eyes and then conclude with, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I'm in competition with God.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you did notice that he said, I think.
Yes.
Think is the operative word.
Okay.
I think that maybe God's got a different future for me, you know, by, I don't know, crucifixion or something that I don't really want to endure. And so I'm going to do everything I can to change the odds in my favor by being careful, by being smart. And good luck with that. By investing in the right people or the right vehicle or the right job or buying the right house or buying the right car. We can We could make a whole real long list of things that we do, and every one of those decisions is almost always about preserving the body. But where we're really going in this teaching is to move beyond the concept that we can learn how to outsmart God. What would happen if we don't do anything? Of Course in Miracles, oh my God, it says, you need do nothing. I can't do that. There's way too many questions about my future. I have to do something. I mean, who's going to pay the rent? Maybe the person you're sleeping with. I don't know. Right? You might be surprised what you can live without doing and quieten your mind so that you're not doing all this thinking and planning. But what the Course is really leading us to is unlearning. Unlearn the thinking mind. So if we're not learning, if we're moving beyond learning, if we're moving beyond the ego, what we're really moving towards is to begin to be experiencing life, not learning from it to protect ourselves from the future, to outsmart God, because, oh, here's a word. Do you believe in fate? No such thing as fate. You're in an echo chamber. You want to change your fate? Change your stinking thinking. It all starts echoing a different song back. It's just a song, really, a vibration, an octave. Okay.
God did not create a meaningless world.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
So if he didn't, and that's what we're experiencing, then who did? John did.
We
Or
all
Donald did. My thoughts are creating a meaningless world. Yes?
Yes.
My stinking thinking is creating a meaningless world. So if we can move towards unlearning this whole idea of outsmarting God, of changing the odds to our favor, et cetera, we can begin to let go. We can begin to surrender. We can begin to relax. We can begin to be present, not spending so much time thinking about the future. And if we're not thinking about the future, we couldn't be in fear. Now, we could be in fear if we think about the past, only if we take the past and project it into the future. There's something that bad that happened, and now I'm going to experience it again if I don't learn how to protect myself, et cetera, right? So we're moving beyond learning, which is counter to the world, because the world is all about learning, right? That's the ego's concept, is to learn. You may be taking this course so that you can learn. I mean, that's the way the mind thinks, the small mind, and it's very linear, and it's ABC, if this, then that. So we're moving beyond if this, then that. We're moving towards being present. It is what it is. And now we're not learning, we are observing, we are experiencing, we're taking it all in, we're being present. And we begin to trust God. That's called faith. We begin to know that we are loved, and in that awakening to the truth that we are perfect, neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it, we begin to let go of even the concept that once it's our salvation and our destruction. But the cool thing about learning the truth, and the truth doesn't change up on you, the truth is the only thing that's true is the truth, and the truth is you're not a body. But that doesn't mean you can't experience it as an enlightened master. And if you're going to be in a body, that's a really good way to experience it, right? Because now the body is healthy. The body could literally be your permanent vehicle and continue to support your life in form until you decided you didn't want that experience anymore. Imagine hundreds and hundreds of years. Wait a minute. People talked about that in the Old Testament, that people would live to be hundreds and hundreds of years old. What, did they have better food? And that's the other misperception. We see that people that are young and healthy can have bad experiences of health or transition. And then we'll see somebody that eats better or takes better care of their body. They're focused really on increasing their odds of survival of the body, but they still have a problem too. Which one's right? Does it really make a difference? Yes, if you believe it does, because thoughts are things, and you're sending out a vibration, and you're holding that vibration in your physical body, and it'll manifest what you experience. And then some people are going to say, oh, so if I had a bad experience physically, if I have some horrible diagnosis or something calamitous, well, the enlightened master looks at that and says, there's a lesson there for me that I chose, right? Because nothing can happen to you. God did not create victims. That if I chose that on a level I can't understand, I get that. I've got to be willing to understand that I don't have a real grasp of reality, and that a part of me, well, we could say the God self is making choices that I can't agree with as a human self, but all of it is for your own awakening. All of it is for your own enlightenment. And there's nothing to fear, because even if you transition, you most likely are going to be right back. Remember, we were talking about the game Jumanji, the movie Jumanji? You can't get out of the game until you break the code, until you solve the riddle, until you awaken as Christ in form, becoming the enlightened master. And we're well on our way, right? That's why life is so good, that you can be so comfortable where you are right now to watch this YouTube without fear. Okay. Wherever that might be. Yes.
So on that topic, we were talking about, John and I were talking about animals.
Yes.
Do animals have egos?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
They don't really, and here's a concept I will share with you. And you can't argue the point, because, you know, it's all made up, right? So the way the teaching that I've been exposed to kind of goes, God created an extension of himself, herself, Mother, Father, God, whatever you want to call it. Does love have a gender? Is it male or female? So if God is love, get over it, right? Oh, I heard the other day that, you know, you'll transition, right? And you'll have like 8 or 10 or 12 lifetimes. Oh, where am I hearing this? Okay, this is like, oh, this is blasphemy, right? Because we're supposed to be talking about A Course in Miracles, so get over it. So excuse my blasphemous moment, okay? But that you're going to have like a series of lifetimes where you're going to have 8 or 10 or 12 where you always come back at the same gender, right? So I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man. And then the transition begins to happen where you are going to come back as a female. But you've been so used to being male that it takes about 3 lifetimes to actually completely make the transition. Kind of makes sense if you think about it a little bit. Just, you know, don't get too crazy about it. That was my blasphemous moment for the night. Okay, so we're just having fun. And I know that A Course in Miracles is a real serious work, because the ego is really, no. Spirit's not serious. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to have sex. All that. Don't worry about it. Nobody really cares. Except you, because you're giving everything all the meaning that it has, because my meaningless thoughts are giving me, showing me a meaningless. We're just going in circles. Yeah, that's what I like about the Course, right? So what I was going to share was that when it comes to animals, that God created you as an idea of love with all of the attributes of God, and the only difference between you and God is that you didn't create yourself, but you are a creator. So where do you think that cat came from? Good job. Give yourself an applause. Elephants, cats, whales. You created it all.
God didn't create that?
Wow. You and God are one. So at what level do you move from duality to non-duality, semi-non-duality, and oneness, etc., etc.? ultimately, if we're going to get real down to the absolute, the body's not real, you're not a separate self, all of this is an illusion, and you are God, because you and God are one, so you are God. But if we would just follow that logic and say, okay, well, God did not create, God, the God source, God's self, love, is ever extending, and you are an idea of that in form, well, then you could say, well, I didn't really create myself, right? Love created me. And so now, as an extension of that, I'm just continuing that. And so I'm creating my friends, the deer, the cats, the dogs, the bunnies, the kittens. That's just a thought. It's another blasphemous moment. We had two blasphemous moments tonight. But it's a fun thought. And what difference does it make? Okay? But you are definitely, you have a soul, right? And you are a thinking self. If you have any question about it, I mean, you can probably check in with your furry friends, and you can talk to them and teach them how to drive your car and all that good stuff, but they're not going to get it, and they're not big thinkers, right? They're just they're being present, and part of what they want to be is around you, and they just want to experience unity and joy, right? And so when you created the body, you created it perfectly, and in the sense that it is the perfect vehicle for you to begin to realize how important being joined in unity is. That's why sex is so good, right? Sex is like, I've got to be joined in love and physically joined with another person. It's fabulous. If you've never tried it, you should check it out. Okay.
Inappropriate.
It's not well. Yes, this is totally age appropriate. If you've got time to sit down and watch YouTube, this is and you've been this deep in the conversation at this point. If you're under the age of 10, you probably checked out a long time ago. So okay. So okay. And if you don't know what sex is, and it doesn't matter. So okay. That's it. Okay. So what about those furry little friends of ours? What's your question? Did God create them, or did you create them? And what difference does it make? No, go ahead, please.
So I guess my question is, if we put the image of an ego on them by how we portray what they're thinking or what they're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Because we give them the voice.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. My wife, and I kid with her all the time, she's like, oh, that kitty cat, and I'm like, she stole my cat from me, by the way, because the cat really liked me, and then suddenly after 3 or 4 weeks with all of her and hugging it and kissing it, and it squirms like it wants to get away, but evidently it likes that because now it hangs out with her and it doesn't hang out with me at all. Who knows? But love is good, right? So obviously she's really, it's the energy and the sharing of love, right? Right. But when she's not around, I get plenty of love.
So would an animal then, would you consider an animal spirit? I mean, so if we are the creators of the animals of sorts.
Yes.
I mean, it is a spirit. The spirit you can never kill the spirit, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, everything that we're experiencing is really creation itself, but we've laid over it our thoughts, our thinking, and another word I can put up here, but I'm out of space, is perception. We've laid our perception over what is real. So you can't have an experience of something that's not real, or not real in its source or in its essence, because that's love. So we could say that all animals are love. I saw a video when these guys raised this lion, big lion, and they released it out into the wild, and then I think it was like a year or two later, however long it was, they went out to close to where and this lion came out, and this was very dramatic film, but this lion came running, charging out of the woods, and I can only imagine that this man was like, oh, my life is this, I don't know, is this it? It's over. And the lion jumps towards him and embraces him and just hugs him. See, love is real. Love is real. It's real. And the animals, I believe, really show us ourselves. There was a series on TV that I picked up an episode of not too long ago, and I can't think of the title of it, so you'll have to forgive me. And forgiveness is really what the Course in Miracles is all about, anyway. And everyone had they had a spirit animal, right? And the spirit animal really was showing their consciousness, if you will, in form. And so some would have a lion, and some would have a chipmunk, and some would have a bunny rabbit, and some would have a wasp or whatever, right? But I mean, it was really intriguing to me because the animal was, when you saw somebody, you could see them in animal form. You kind of could see who they were, their consciousness or whatever. It was interesting. But when they got killed, the animal, or if the animal got killed, that was the end of their life too, I think. I don't think I watched enough of it to really see all that. Anyway, thought it was interesting. So what's your favorite animal? All of them. Okay. But they really are, we could say, love. Guess what? In form. Love in form. And they're just doing what they're doing, right? But you have moved beyond just being human and evolved into a thinking self that's ultimately moving towards being love and form. They're kind of ahead of you. They're not really judging you. You piss them off, they'll kill you, eat you, whatever. I mean, you don't want to be messing around with the wrong kind of animal, but if we're just talking about bunnies and kittens, we're okay.
Yeah, I've heard people say that the animals are our teachers.
Oh, absolutely.
They're our best teachers, yeah.
Yeah. There is a self, and one of the things, and this is really important, I'm glad you brought it up, is who is your teacher, right? Because the ego self, this is our ego self here. This ego self really claims to be the teacher. You pick and choose what you like or don't like, and you choose from that menu all day long, right? Just come on, I'm getting what I want. I'm only going to get, I don't want that, I don't want that. I'm getting what I want all day from life, right? I've learned how to protect myself, increase my odds of survival, yada, 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 right? But as we're moving towards being love and form, then we let go of the ego self and we join with the higher self, now where we go, right? And we're listening to basically another voice. And that's really important, is to ultimately surrender your dedication to being your own teacher. Can I say it that way? Because that's really what the name of the game is. You have an innate desire, and that innate self really is your teacher, and you have an innate desire, but you have to quieten the thinking self to begin to tap into that and allow it to begin to inform you. But that's why you're taking a course. I mean, that innate self is what I believe has brought you to this moment where you're studying A Course in Miracles, or at least having this conversation here and being a part of this study of self, right? And as we let go more and more of this ego self and are willing to let go of the doingness and the learning, you don't really need to take another course. You don't need to spend it. You could just literally sit down and shut up, which is a really hard thing to do, and allow that inner wisdom, that innate self, to become your teacher, right? And since we are so stubborn and so loud and continuous in our thought streams, Jesus came to us through Helen Schachtman, even though some people believe that that's all bullshit. It's not, to me. I've had amazing spiritual experiences and if you'll continue and persist in your study of this curriculum, you will have confirmations from Spirit. Things will show up. It'll be specifically for you, and everybody's unique in their experiences. So, and they can't even be. I could tell you about it, but you really wouldn't get it because you can't have the experience. I can only tell you about it. You are going to have your own experience. So you'll start to have experiences of confirmation. You'll start to experience more joy in your life. You know, as you get into a higher and higher consciousness, you start to experience more happiness, more joy, more health, more peace, and all those things that we say that we really want. But we're trying to make that in our own perception rather than surrendering to it. So it's a step, right, of listening to that voice, and there is a desire that you innately have. And then you have to begin to, well, if you will, set an intention to create an environment like this environment where I'm studying this teaching. And so Jesus really said, look, you guys are really stubborn, you know, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. You just keep staying in the same energy field. You keep being your own teacher, picking and choosing what you like and don't like, and you got to surrender all that. So for those of us that are willing to take on this study, we're really just letting Jesus, if you will, allow me to use the term, to be our teacher, right? I'm just a stand-in. I'm just a messenger. I'm not anything. So the point is, the book is a self-study course. It's the teacher. Well, what I try to do is to help you grasp some of the meaning of it, so that when you're reading it, you can really get past your resistance to the language and feeling like you don't get it, so that it does become easier for you to get. At least that's what I'm trying to do. But the truth is, I'm also the student. The teacher is the learner. So the reason I'm doing this is so that I get it. I'm very selfish. That's really what it is. Okay. What else? Is that it? We got love and form. We got thinking. We got judgment. We got the 50-50. Oh, let's flip the coin. We got the ego self. And I don't know if you guys can see all of the stuff I put up at the top of the board up there. Let's see if I can make this go up a little bit. There you go. Okay. So I wanted to turn to the textbook, and I want to go to chapter 19. So we're going to jump in a little deeper tonight. Chapter 19.
You mean lesson 19?
What did I say?
Chapter.
No, chapter 19. And I'm going to get there in a minute. I promise. Beyond the Body is chapter 19. It's on page 378 in the textbook. We said before that when a situation has been dedicated wholly to truth, peace is inevitable. Hallelujah. So we can close the book now. We're done. That's all we have to do, is dedicate ourselves to truth. That's what I was saying. You have an innate voice within you. Let that voice be your teacher, and things really start changing. Its attainment, okay, which we were going to say peace, is the criterion by which the wholeness of the dedication can be safely assumed. In other words, if you're really experiencing peace in your life, then you can pat yourself on the back, because that's the witness to your dedication to awaken to the truth of who you are. And keep in mind, we're talking about truth. Only truth is true. And understanding and knowing the truth, beginning to experience the truth, then becomes this higher experience of joy and bliss and peace. And that's your confirmation that you've dedicated yourself to the right thing. Yet we also said that peace without faith will never be attained. For what is wholly dedicated to truth as its only goal is brought to truth by faith. So it's kind of like you've created, you've imprisoned yourself in a cell, right? And you don't have the key, and the key will not be discovered unless you have faith that it can be discovered. It can be experienced. And so one of my favorite sayings in the Course in Miracles is, for immediate results, apply infinite patience. And another way to tweak that a little bit is to say, for immediate results, apply infinite faith. Right? Because patience is built on faith. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you really understand the truth of who you and what you are, that you're this perfect being, and that thoughts are things, and you're living in a meaningless world, and it's showing you your meaningless thoughts, and all events are neutral, we start letting go of all of our attachment to so many things. And the media, oh my God, have we ever experienced such a fervor of energy in our Western culture here in the United States? Maybe. I mean, we did have a civil war. You know, you were there, right? You were there. But I don't remember those past lives. So I just, in my young life, this has just been, it just seems like there's so much polarization. And there's polarization in all kinds of things, like in spiritual teachings, you know, and people get very polarized and fearful, right? And remember, fear is a projection of a future that's unsatisfactory based on our learning and based on our objectives and our ability to try to outwit God, so to speak, right? So we've also said that peace without faith will never be attained, for what is wholly dedicated to truth, which would be you, your mind, as its only goal is brought to truth by faith. So, for immediate results, apply infinite faith. This faith encompasses everyone involved. In other words, you become the witness to your dedication to everyone around you. See, people keep thinking that they're going to learn their way to enlightenment. But really, as you practice unlearning, as you practice needing to do nothing, as you practice letting go of judgment, the thinking self, creating this energy flow, and your echo chamber begins to shift, then people literally are beginning to look at you. Your energy field is an attractor factor, and people are going to start showing up in your life because they want what you have. They want what you have when you're at peace. And so you become the teacher, not through writing another book, but through people being able to observe you. You become the witness. Remember, love and form is the witness to the truth, and so people begin to get it literally through observation. It's not a learning, it's an experience. It's literally an experience of love. And you become that as the teacher. This faith encompasses everyone involved, for only thus the situation is perceived as meaningful and as a whole. And everyone must be involved in it, or else your faith is limited and your dedication incomplete. He's pointing here to the truth that you cannot possibly be separate from anyone else ever. It's impossible. So as soon as you become polarized against anyone for any reason whatsoever, you've separated yourself off from truth. And you've let go of your faith in truth. Because the truth is that you and everyone are identical and joined together in mind. That's why we say there's no such thing as private thoughts. In A Course in Miracles, that's a difficult one for us to get, because the ego really believes that it operates in privacy, that it operates in darkness. It's not true. I mean, we can fake ourselves out, obviously, and believe that that's true, but ultimately it is not true. And people, whether you didn't say it outwardly or not, if you really don't like somebody, they know it. And maybe, have you noticed, they don't like you either, because those energies are joined. They're picking up on you, or you're picking up on them, right? And you are, an empath, and you're also multidimensional, and you're also quantum, and you're all these other things. Another blasphemous moment, but you're actually able to read people's energy if they never say a word. You can pick up on whether or not somebody likes you or not. But it doesn't take them long to vocalize it anyway, right? They'll get around to letting you know vocally. If you're not picking up on it just from the vibration field, they'll eventually help you see that. And you may help them see that too. Okay, every situation properly perceived becomes an opportunity to heal the children of God. And he is healed because you offered faith to him, giving him to the Holy Spirit and releasing him from every demand your ego would make of him. He's referring here, because we're on lesson 19, but he's really, chapter 19, but he's really referring to the holy instant here. In other words, I go to love. I am love in form, and love in form is not a separate ego self. Love in form is a joined mind, joined with the Holy Spirit. Was the Holy Spirit nothing more than your right mind? It is you. It is your true self, capital S, self. And so once I'm joined with that, I become the expression of Christ consciousness in form. So when I see my brother, I'm seeing them through those eyes, the eyes of the mind of truth, the eyes of the mind of love. And I don't see their outward presentation. I don't even really see them as a body. I see them as spirit. So our brother Jesus, if you will, that's why he loved everybody, because he didn't really see them in form. He saw them in spirit. And he could at once see them. Kind of like, I love that video or the movie, The Matrix, because at one point, Neo begins to see past the form, and all he's seeing is these energy fields. And so that's kind of like something similar. I mean, it's just a good metaphor, something to play with. So the Holy Spirit then is what we're talking about, and you release them from every demand that your ego would make of your brothers and sisters. Okay? So thus do you see him free. See your brother and sisters free. Free of what? Your judgment, your thinking. You're no longer playing war with God here, trying to outsmart God. You're literally seeing through the eyes of the joined mind. And you see that all of your brothers and sisters are one with you, and that they are joined with you in mind. There's no opposite. There's no, it's like saying that there's a difference between there's an aspect of you that we could say is the controller, and there's an aspect of you that we could say is the skeptic. But you could be either one instantaneously. You may have been a skeptic already tonight several times with all our blasphemous talk. And so, are they separate, really? No, they're both aspects of you, of your mind, right? So we can see that we're joined in mind with all of our brothers and sisters. So thus do you then see them free. In this vision does the Holy Spirit share. In other words, you're seeing through the eyes of nothing more than your right mind, your true self, your awakened self, which we in the Course in Miracles refer to as the Holy Spirit. So, and since the Holy Spirit shares it, then he has given it, and so he heals through you. In other words, you become the miracle. The miracle occurs through you. And the miracle, as we've said again and again and again, is a shift of perception out of the mind of fear into the mind of love. And so you become, again, love in form, which is pretty cool. The body is healed because you came without it and joined the mind in which all healing rests. All healing rests in mind. The body lines up in form. This is not an opportunity, though some might take it, to judge themselves. Now we're going back to the ego mind. To judge themselves if they're having any kind of physical issues or they're having anything that they feel is unhealed in their life. And, feeling like you're destitute, financially can be looked at as a sickness. It's not healthy, or not being in relationship with someone if you want a partner in life and you feel like that part of you is not well, if you will, that there's a dis-ease in your relationship life or your economic life or your physical life or whatever it may be. So the healing really occurs when our mind begins to be joined with a higher self, because all those fears, which is all those things are really, fear and guilt is this vibration of this ego self playing this game of itself against the world that it thinks is coming at it, not seeing that it's reflecting itself. And so a lot of contraction and a lot of negative energy and those kinds of things manifest, showing us our consciousness. It's literally showing us ourselves. The world is. So the body then is healed because you came without it and joined the mind in which all healing rests. When it says when you came without it, it means that you give the body no thought. You don't really care what the body is doing or demonstrating because you've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them anyway. And you can have another one Well, when you go to sleep tonight, you'll have one. You'll make up another one, right? And so if we're no longer attached to ourselves as bodies, it's much easier to not judge whatever the body's presenting at whatever point we are at in our life, right? Because it's all okay. All is well. We don't know, this self cannot possibly know why we're experiencing what we're experiencing in body, but it will be revealed to you in time. In other words, eventually we do begin to see it, but we see that through the eyes of the awakened mind, not through this ego self, because it's still going to keep seeing things through the filter of fear. Okay? So beyond the body, healing in the mind. The body cannot heal because it cannot make itself sick. Now this is very difficult for a lot of us as course students because it appears to us that the body has a mind of its own, that it has a fate of its own, right? That the body's going to do what it's going to do and we have nothing to do with it. And nothing could be further from the truth. The body really is reflecting our consciousness. Instantaneous healing is available and can occur, right? But it occurs through a joined mind. And so instead of focusing on the body, and anytime we're focused on the body, we're really out of alignment with the truth, because the truth is we're not a body. The body is a temporary learning device. It's the vehicle that we're using in this world of three-dimensional form to be the expression of truth or lies, not truth. Fear is clearly being expressed by us when we're not joined in mind. This is a separated self, its basis for all of its life, all of its expressions. Not that we don't fluctuate between love and fear. We absolutely do. But the focus that the Course is trying to help us to bring into view is that we have a choice in every moment. And that's called the holy instant, where we're constantly checking in, going, are you there? Are you there? What's the truth? And we start seeing ourselves joined in mind, and we're beginning to see and experience thoughts that we begin to recognize are not our thoughts, if you will. Ultimately, they are our thoughts because you and God are one, right? So its health or sickness depends entirely on how the mind perceives it, the body, and the purpose which the mind would use it for. And it is obvious that a segment of the mind can see itself as separated from the universal purpose. That's the ego self. This is a segment of mind that sees itself as separate from the universal purpose. A lot of people get a little hung up on, what does that mean? What does that mean, universal purpose? Is that some high-minded ideal? It's pretty simple. It's just being love-informed. This is your universal purpose, to be the perfect expression of love, because that is what you are perfectly. In other words, to be your true self. Being your true self is the universal purpose, to be love-informed. Okay? When this occurs, the body becomes its weapon. Now, what he's talking about is it's the ego. In other words, when a segment of the mind sees itself as separated from the purpose of being love-informed, then it becomes a weapon, and it's used against that purpose. We separate ourselves even more. We separate ourselves out more and more and more. Have you ever noticed that when you're angry at something, or you don't like something, that something's happened or somebody's done or whatever, that you want to separate yourself from them? Divorce yourself. You kind of did that with God. You divorced yourself from God. Or at least that's the thought that you held and believed that you could actually achieve as a small separated self. But we do that with our brothers and sisters. We do that in communities. We do that in our work. There may be somebody sitting right next to you in another space in your work environment that you may not have spoken to for months or years or whatever, that you just don't like, and you know that you feel that and they don't like you, whatever. But that's all based on an idea that it's possible for you to be separate from anybody, and it's not. But that doesn't mean that a segment of our mind can't believe that to be true. And as soon as we do believe it to be true, and we allow that to be our top of mind experience and expression, then guess what we experience? Anger, separation, frustration, hatred, jealousy, pride, depression, anxiety, shame, and guilt. And a couple of more that we could throw in there, but we won't. The body then, when the body becomes its weapon, this purpose is to demonstrate the fact that separation has indeed occurred. The body thus becomes the instrument of illusion, acting accordingly, seeing what is not there, hearing what truth has never said, and behaving insanely, being imprisoned by insanity. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. So all of the lessons that you read tonight speak directly. See how the Course is so circuitous, it just takes us right around and around and around, and it keeps showing us the same truth over and over from these beautifully illustrated different perspectives, right? So the past, and you had asked about the past earlier. The past, how do we perceive the past, or how should we perceive the past? Was that kind of where you were going with that question? When we first started out tonight, you said something about, is the past meaningless? We said we have lots of traditions, we have lots of stuff.
Oh, the sentimental stuff. What was the question again?
The sentimental stuff. What is the sentimental stuff? Are we talking about Christmas again?
No, it's something that you were handed down from a family member.
Ah.
Yes.
Even though it's meaningless, but you've given it meaning.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Good question.
Yes.
So you're saying it's something that's reflecting our past.
So meaning that something was handed down through generations, and because we gave it meaning, because it was our great grandparents, so we gave it meaning.
Well, it had, let's just say that the perception, because we're giving everything all the meaning that it has, might be that it meant something to them.
Okay.
And maybe, and I'm just making shit up, but maybe we're honoring, the idea is I'm honoring my parents, or I'm honoring my grandparents or great-grandparents or whatever, because I still have this memorabilia of their life when they were younger and here. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can go to, you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this place called Cracker Barrel, but you can go to Cracker Barrel, right? And some of the stores anyway that I've been in, and you can look around while you're eating, and there's pictures of people from generations gone by. And it was memorabilia to somebody for some time. And there it is. I wonder how many stories we could make up about each one of those pictures, right? And how much meaning we could give each one of those pictures. And I'm sure that at some point that picture was very, very important to someone 2 or 3, 4 or 5 lifetimes ago, generations ago, maybe. Or maybe somebody right now, but somebody offered them enough money and they let that memory go. Right? But the point is, what does it mean now? And when we, and we all have to say, we all have to decide what kind of thoughts we're going to lay on top of things, right? But if the world is meaningless and all events are neutral, then how does our memorabilia show up in truth? So we go to the higher self. We practice the holy instant, and we simply take a good deep breath. Let's do that right now. It's nice. It's nice and quiet in here. And we can ask the simple question, are you there? And when I ask that question, I'm actually asking that of my higher self. And I always hear this simple phrase, I love you. And then I ask another question, what is the truth? Reveal to me the truth that in this moment can help to clear the questions I might have about what is or isn't the truth. And then the hard part is to not fill in the blanks, to just be quiet and be infinitely patient. And whatever I might be holding in mind that I'm having a question about, maybe it's an artifact, maybe it's a poster, a picture, or anything that we have given it some meaning, clearly. Someone has given it meaning, and we've kind of inherited that meaning, right? Or we've given it our own special meaning. You know, a lot of us at this time of year, some of us maybe who are having new families are starting your own traditions this year. I know, like my daughter this year is hosting, for the very first time, she's hosting our family. We have kind of a crazy big family, and so it's hard to find a place for us all to get together because there's so many people, right? Well, this year she has offered to have her home as the place for our whole family to come for Christmas. So that's kind of our whole family is going to get to enjoy a new part, but it's kind of our tradition. You know, our family gets together 4 or 5 times a year. You know, that's what we do. And we get to give it all the meaning that it has, right? And it's so important if so-and-so is here or not here, you know. It's kind of fun because a lot of the ex-wives and ex-husbands show up for our family gatherings because we still love them, so we don't care. You know, nobody has an issue with that, which is fun. But whether it's something that's been given to us and it's been given meaning that has been passed down to us, we get to decide what it means. But that's the small separated self. We can go to the higher self, and this is the voice of truth, the voice of wisdom that truly knows that all events are neutral, that dreams have no effect, that thoughts are things, and the only thing that we can really experience is love. And so here's where what I'm getting in this moment in this discussion. If everything is love, whatever you're sitting on right now or laying on is loving you. Or if you're standing up, the floor is loving you, okay? So we could take a picture and say this is really important. In fact, we are taking the picture right now. You're on YouTube. But the point is that we get to give it meaning, and we get to decide whether or not it has value. So, but if everything is love, then absolutely it has value, right? The rub is whether or not we're attached to it. That now we're giving it meaning beyond its true meaning. Its true meaning is God loves you. And you are love. And everything you're experiencing is love. So everything is loving you. So does it matter the past, I'm saying? Does it matter that I can only experience it through something that that I've inherited or something given to me? If it brings you joy, then hallelujah, right? But if you're going to divorce your husband or your wife because they don't respect what you have brought to the house because it has meaning to you, then you might want to check in with your higher self on that one, right? Because now you're making it special. In other words, more important than the chair you're sitting in or the person that's sitting next to you. the person that's your partner in life? Are we making fear of the future or some idea of a loss that we're not living the life we dreamed of or whatever? These are all just romantic ideas. Remember, we're making all this up. If we're giving that more value than the present experience we're having with any brother or sister in this moment right now, whoever's in your life right now, everyone in your life right now is perfect in the eyes of God. And everything is an expression of perfect love in the eyes of God. So let's get connected to that mind, which is nothing more than your right mind. We call it the Holy Spirit and A Course in Miracles. And allow that mind to help us to see the truth. Nothing is more important than anything else. And when we get caught up in stuff that we make up, right, that we didn't create, we made up out of whole cloth, which is just our thinking, and we're giving value to something as compared to something else, then that can be healed through a connection of your higher self, right? And your higher self might give you an expression, something like, well, what does this mean, blah, 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 and you might be hearing things like, that doesn't matter, right? Because we're giving a meaningless world. I'm angry because a meaningless world is showing me meaningless thoughts. The choice is yours. But if you're going to go the route of separation, it's just a crappy ass ride. Because you're missing out on all the beauty of love that is everywhere you are, in all things. And so when we get to that consciousness, we really don't get upset when something is gone. I was reading Byron Katie. If you're familiar with Byron Katie, she does this work called The Work. And she had an experience of enlightenment, and she's attached to nothing. And her husband said, well, you know, somebody would ask her, you know, he said, oh, that's a beautiful ring. Can I see it? And she would like, yeah, you can see it, you know. And he said, well, can I have it? And she's like, yeah, well, you can have it. And her husband was like, I'm not going to buy you any more rings. See, because you're attached to nothing, you see, because the mind is free. That's what enlightenment is. This is what A Course in Miracles is all about. It's what the whole thing's about. This is what your journey is all about. It's returning to your own freedom, that nothing trips you up, nothing causes you to stumble or to have a thought of anything other than love for anything and everybody. Whether it's the kitten or the lion or the picture on the wall. But as soon as we make it special, right, then we have moved right back into separation land. And as soon as we have an attachment to it, we give ourselves some energy of being able to be victimized. What happens if I lose that? And it's not just things. I mean, it could be the person. That's why we get so fearful and sad, yeah. In many cases, when it appears that we're losing someone, not because of a choice, but because that they're transitioning to another experience. They're letting go of the physical form. I personally am always, I find myself very well, I don't know how to say it other than just compassionate and empathetic for the people that are not transitioning around the people that are transitioning. Because the people that are transitioning typically, if they've done some spiritual work, or maybe they've had a good, long, full life, you know, hallelujah, right? They're usually not the ones that are struggling so much. They might be, if they're struggling, it's because they're concerned about the people that they feel that they're leaving behind, and they had things that they wanted to do for other people and love other people that they feel like they can't continue that. But you can, because you can't lose love. Nobody can lose love. That's a lie. And now, we're not seeing this person, if you will, in form, but they may show up very quickly right back in form and be a part of your life again. You just may not recognize them. Like there's a lot of people around you right now that you've had lifetimes with that you probably don't even recognize. It doesn't mean you can't love them and they're not loving you, because those are all just parts of us, aspects of us. And so the Course in Miracles is about reintegrating yourself, going around and forgiving all the judgments and all the ideas of separation and fear and guilt and all the things that go with that, and recognizing that everything deserves your love. And nothing, this is a heartbreaker, right? Nothing is really special. Everything's special. So how are you going to choose when everything that you touch and see and know is special in the eyes of God? Which one are you going to make more important than another when they're all exactly the same? They're all perfect. Everything. Everybody, everything is perfect in its expression. Right? And that's when you become really free. All right, we'll close with that. It's been a fun night. Here we are at the bottom of the hour. Thank you guys for hanging out with me here in the studio tonight, and also all of those who are at home tonight or watching on YouTube this morning, this afternoon, wherever you may be. You know, we're closing up on the end of the year. Let's take a good deep breath and in a moment of silence, and then I'm just going to close with a prayer. There is no end to all the peace and joy and all the miracles that I will give when I accept God's word. Why not today? Why would I wait, Father, for the joy that you have promised me? Because I know you will keep your word and you will give your children who appear to be in exile your love. I'm sure my treasure waits for me, and I need only reach out my hand to find it. Even now, my fingers can touch it. It's very close. I don't need to wait an instant more to be at peace forever. It is you that I'm choosing, and my true identity along with you. Your children would be themselves and would know you, that you are the Creator, and we would know your love. So as we go forth this week, we're going to be happy. We're going to practice freedom. We're going to let go of attachment to things and people. It doesn't mean we're not going to love them. We're going to love them, right? We're going to have fun. We're going to have some joy. We're going to let go of an idea that anything is wrong. And we're going to let the world be meaningless for one solid week. It's a tall order, but we'll give it a try. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate you. This is Brother T. We're signing off. God bless you in love, and have a great week. Bye-bye.
What lesson was that one?
That was lesson 355.
Now, you said earlier for immediate results, immediate